to anything that I could do. But I mean, it's the same with tennis as well. You know, like Serena Williams would probably lose in a game of tennis to Rafa Nadal, but her competitiveness could be greater, if not the same. Do you know what I mean? Like and to me, that was what really inspired me about that 80s generation, like Wendy, Frida, like the same attitude that Tom Carroll had. Frida had that in spades.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And that's the value. That's the real value I look for in an athlete. It's not can the woman do the thing as good as the man. You know, yeah.
I think so much of sports, right, has to do with the stories that we see, the underdogs that we root for, the kind of grace that they present in what they do, and you know, the individual storytelling, I think, is really why we root for who we root for or who we watch, and as well as the kind of superhuman qualities of they do things that we can't do. They you know, compete at a different level and have to draw from such deep places to get there. I wanted to also congratulate you on the film's Tribeca Film Festival premiere that's going to happen this month. I'm guessing you won't be able to be there for the U.S. premiere. I'm sad for you. As a filmmaker, I'm sad for you.
Well, I mean, the truth is that we got into Tribeca last year, right? So we got accepted to Tribeca, I think, in February. And
wow.
20 of us were on our way to New York. Like some people had bought tickets.
Oh, I thought it was for this year.
Yeah, and then COVID happened and the whole thing was scrapped. And so, I mean, look, I mean,
wait, so is it showing this month in New York?
No, it is. No, sorry, it is. So the festival last year was completely scrapped, and then they've got a 21 schedule, but they're also showing some of the films that were should have been shown in 20. So yeah, like it's bittersweet. You know, I feel like we missed an opportunity, but at the same time, I'm so stoked that it's playing in New York, and the Smith twins, Georgia and Jolene, are flying from California over to New York to be at the screening. So it'll be awesome. It'll be a great night. They were great
in the film as well. Can we expect anything else, like virtual events in and around the premiere?
Yeah, I know there's virtual screenings in the festival itself, and I'm pretty sure you can access screenings that way. And then there's also a live screening. We haven't yet sold the film to a distributor in the US.
Wow. That's shocking.
Yeah, like, I don't know. This is
it was a very disruptive year, I think. It's, you know.
Yeah. And it'll happen, but it just hasn't happened yet.
Well, I can't wait to till there's kind of like mainstream access to this, because I can't imagine the film's not going to make an impact. And at least, hopefully, certainly just to the WSL here, you know, or the competitions that exist over here. You know, I feel like up till now, the only name you really hear is perhaps Frida Zamba, and probably because of, you know, where she's from, and the same place Kelly Slater's from, and Caroline Marks, and there's this kind of amazing history there. But I feel like a lot of the names aren't household names, and I really hope even just, you know, when they start announcing the WSL events, we can hear more of these names, and they can do more to highlight the past as well. I think it's this rich history that they're just not exploiting, even just for their own audiences.
Yeah, we exploited it. When I realized no one had made this film, I was like, holy crap, I've got to make this film. Like, this is such a great opportunity, and what a great story, and what wonderful people, and it spans the world, from Lisa Anderson to Rochelle Ballard to everyone, and I feel very lucky to have been able to be part of that and help tell that story. And I remember when I first started talking to Pam, and she told me a story. She was going to the Australian Open, which was at Manly, so Australian Surfing Open, and she was walking down the beach on her way to the contest site, and she was like, I wonder if anyone's going to know who I am. And I was kind of like, oh, that's so sad.
Oh, my God.
You know, it's like, you're Pam Burridge. Like, you won the world title in 1990. Not just that, but like, you were the face of women's surfing in Australia for
That
such a
is
long
just
time.
nuts. I mean, and to think like someone like Aki still like, I think there's like legacy sponsorship money that a lot of these older surfers also get. So it's like the fact that she can't even go to an event and think that anyone would recognize her is really heartbreaking.
Well,
what's
really lovely is that's from what I can tell from talking to the girls, like that's really changed. And Pauline, I know for a fact, is really loving having some limelight. And
I love it.
And I think Jodie told me she was at a contest recently, one of the WSL contests, and Steph went up to her and made a point of saying how thankful she was and how much she liked the film and everything. So
amazing.
I know, like as athletes, they really love that stuff.
Of course,
and it's,
recognition.
I'm stoked for them for that. Yeah,
especially Jodie. Her recent court case, right? So this guy tried to drown her, and he finally got the book thrown at him. The mat surfing guy.
Yeah. Or I mean, there's a story that didn't make the film that, that
was another question I wanted to ask you. What are some of the stories that didn't make the film that were just heartbreaking to keep on the cutting room floor?
Okay. Well, the Lennox Head incident was probably never going to make the film because it was kind of quite fresh at the time when we did the interviews and it was in court and stuff. And so I wasn't going to make it talk about that. But, there's the famous story where Johnny Boy Gomes punched her in the lineup at Pipeline in the early 90s.
Oh, wow. I didn't know 80s. That, actually.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, that's a legendary story. And she told me that story and it's amazing. I mean, mate, she is such an inspiring person, effortlessly awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. She definitely has a veneer of coolness to her.
But like mixed with this beautiful, friendly West Australian country attitude, but like just her moral center is so impressive.
Amazing.
And that story, of him punching her out is amazing. And let's hope someone writes her book or whatever it is soon. And then there's lots. Rochelle has amazing stories. Not many people know that she and her husband at the time, Bill Ballard, were the first people to make an all-women's surf video. There's sort of bits from here and there, and they compiled it all and turned it into the all-women's surf video. And this is how I remember the story being told. She was sitting around with a bunch of the girls, and they were like, "What are we going to call this thing?" And it's like your love of the ocean. And someone said, "Oh, it's a bit like having a crush." And then someone else said Blue Crush. And then they were like, bang. And so they called this film Blue Crush. And then Jeffrey Katzenberg ended up buying the name off them to make the movie Blue Crush. And a lot of like the movie Blue Crush is really kind of her life and the way she grew up. And I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of stuff like that.
I hope you release it. Find a way to be able to release the little morsels. That would be so amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, just for historical value.
No, you're so right. It'd be great to find some resources to be able to put that stuff, even if it's just like little stories online.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what social media is for?
Yeah, true.
Content.
There's a lot of footage there. A lot of interviews.
Oh my goodness. Amazing.
And just an extraordinary history that has really, like, I'll generalize for a moment and say that, the surf industry really, for whatever reason, hasn't gone back and had a good look at. And there's actually, just so many stories.
If somebody threw money at you and said, "Hey, with the rest of the footage, can you make another film?" Would you be able to? Is that something you'd be interested in?
How you would, I mean, how would you do the beginning, middle, and end? I'm not sure. But easily we could make a YouTube series out of some of those incredible stories.
That would be amazing.
Like the Johnny Boy Gomes story. And I mean, there's so many. Frida had a great story about how
the way you presented her in the film was just phenomenal. Her and her then boyfriend.
She's so cool. And the whole flea phenomenon and everything.
So funny.
She was just such a pure, genuine, sincere athlete. And she and Wendy battled really hard in those years
so
of the 80s,
in
because
terms of personalities.
Frida won 4 in a row, and then Wendy started dominating.
Mm-hmm.
And Frida tells a fantastic story about how she was like, oh, man, Wendy's really got the wood on me. Like, she keeps beating me.
Right.
And so she went to see a sports psychologist, which for the age was like pretty,
nobody did that.
revolutionary. And it was this guy who'd been on 60 Minutes and stuff, who was Andre Agassi's sports psychologist.
Great. I love it.
And she had to like go to like
she
this
was
sort
so
of
ahead
retreat.
Of her time.
They had to go to like a retreat and like fill out a questionnaire. And, I mean, certainly, no one would ever bat an eyelid at a sports psychologist these days, but like back then it was like really cutting edge. And that was a very cool story that, Jules and I had to, they call it drowning puppies in the edit suite, where you just can't tell all the stories or else you've got a 5-hour film. Like the 3.5-hour rough edit was, I thought that was great.
Yeah, exactly. I have a 3-hour rough edit on something else right now, and it's like trying to get it down to 80 minutes is just heartbreaking.
Yeah, you got to drown those puppies.
Yeah, God, that's awful.
And for history's sake, I really hope we can get more of those stories out, and also that like people just sort of pick up the baton and ask these women those questions themselves.
Absolutely.
And I mean, they're just a great bunch of people. They're so inspiring and so individual. Right. So unique.
Actually, one question I definitely want to make sure I get to is your archival stuff. I imagine there was so little archival, but it felt effortless in terms of you being able to tell the story visually. What was that journey like in terms of just sifting through archives? That must have been really difficult, just getting your hands on things and the formats that they're in, and who knows where they exist,
Incredibly difficult. And also very expensive. There was...
Expensive in what way? Because of who held the rights to them?
Yeah, just, archive costs a lot of money. Like, because, for a movie, you need to have it sort of in perpetuity worldwide, all that kind of stuff. All
media.
And there's a whole other conversation just in that. We had an incredible archive researcher in Lindy Boyle, and also the women's personal archives were incredibly valuable. But, there was lots of great archive we wanted to use that we couldn't afford. There was some ESPN stuff. There was an awesome ESPN story on Frida from 1984 that was just pure 80s awesomeness.
Oh, wow. I got to find that.
Yeah, like her name is Frida Zamba. By day she works in a surf shop. Like, it's so good.
It sounds like her name was made specifically for that moment.
Yeah, the blonde hair. And like, it was so good. And we just couldn't afford some of that. But certainly... what's sort of one of the beautiful kind of idiosyncrasies of the surf world is that there's this kind of troupe of videographers and photographers that go back decades that have kept things. And, Peter Jolly Wilson, and
goodness.
they were the only ones that would bother to shoot the women, because most of the time, as you said, like that was the lunch break.
And they saved it too, after all these years. That's a miracle.
And saved it. And they were usually, from what I can tell, just they're archivists as well as being photographers or videographers. And
absolutely.
We were thankful for that. Thankful for the women, like Pauline's, Pam, Lisa Anderson was really generous with her personal archive. And we definitely couldn't have told the story without what they gave us. And then, kind of the usual sources, but you couldn't find contest footage of the 1990 Huntington Pro for the men's, but for the women's, not so much. And that sort of rests with a certain character in California who bought it when it used to be the ASP. He bought their entire archive. I am struggling to remember his name right now. I wish I could remember it, because he basically owns the entire archive and won't let anyone use it.
Oh my God, what's the reason for that?
No one can really figure it out. So we tried a few strategies to try and get access and even have a conversation with him, but couldn't make it happen.
That's bananas. I mean, that's really crazy. It's just a kind of black hole of history.
Yeah. It's all sitting there somewhere. But again, like the women weren't even really covered that much anyway.
Right,
So,
right.
so yeah, we were always going to be up against it with that stuff. And yeah, it's cool. Like even when I watch the film, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't feel like we were